Колеги, дякуємо за
Thank you for patience. I would like to invite the ATO spokesman, Colonel Lysenko, to take the floor. Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. In the zone of ATO, the enemy continues dislocation of armored equipment and accumulation of resources, first of all in Mariupolsky directions. At the Donetsky directions, we observe that the subversive reconnaissance groups of militants are acting very more actively. According to the intelligence in Donetsk, the people are recruited into the band First Slavyanskaya Brigade. They are planning to recruit about 200 persons that have the experience of combating as part of the anti-tank military formations. Yesterday, on the 10th of March, the enemy shelled at Ukrainian positions 37 times. The most unquiet situation is near Shirokino-Granitno-Chermalik at Mariupolsky direction, near Donetsk airport, near Dzerzhinsk, near Gorlivka, and near Sokilniki in Bakhmutska highway. At the same time, after the midnight, the militants were very active only near Avdiivka and Opitna, where we registered 3 shellings from grenade launchers. In other directions, the situation was quiet. And during 24 hours, the reconnaissance group of Battalion Kiev 1 was examining the Marinka city streets, and the result, the special battalion discovered the place of positioning of 2 snipers of the enemy. The enemy was not just firing but was conducting reconnaissance. According to the information, the militants were preparing a large-scale subversive act. When one of the separatists was wounded but managed to withdraw. There are no servicemen of the battalion who suffered, who fell victims. We registered the flight of 27 drones during the last 24 hours. In the result of the shellings during the last 24 hours, 1 Ukrainian serviceman was killed and 5 were wounded. We received the proofs of supply of Russian military equipment to militants. The special monitoring mission of OSCE informs about the traces of Caterpillar equipment which observers on the 8th of March saw near Chervony Zhovteny of Stanично-Lugansk district of Lugansk region, which is located on Ukrainian-Russian border on the territory under the control of the LNR band. At the border, the observers have not seen a single militant of LNR, but the barrier between Ukraine and Russia was open. And similar traces were seen in the village itself, where the direction of movement of Caterpillar vehicles was turning to the main road. Also, the militants of LNR refused the representatives of the mission of OSCE to freely access the pre-border territories. The Russian militants continue to violate the Minsk agreements and put obstacles to the work of the observers. The Russian aggression is condemned by civilized world. The assistant to the State Secretary of the U.S., Victoria Nuland, criticized the Russian politics against Ukraine. During her speech in the U.S. Senate, she stated that part of the eastern Ukraine and the next Crimea by Russia are now under the power of terror. Russia and its proxies started violation and robbery. At the same time, Russia does not consider it necessary to limit their armed forces in Europe. Russian Federation has suspended its participation in agreement on the conventional armed forces in Europe. That was stated by the head of the delegation of Russian Federation, Anton Mazur, at the meeting of the Joint Consultative Group on the Agreement on Conventional Arms in Europe. Russian representatives representative accused the countries of NATO in violating the conditions of the agreement, and we would like to mention that this document was signed in 1990 to reduce and limit the conventional arms in Europe after finishing of the opposition of the blocs, and Ukraine is part of that agreement. Ukrainian special services detained one mercenary in Cherkasy region. Ukrainian counterintelligence detained the citizen of Russian Federation nicknamed Mirage. Together with other bandits, he had firing and subversive special training in Rostovsky region, then illegally crossed the Russian-Ukrainian border. He was after that patrolling the streets with the weapons in Alchevsk as part of the band Ghost. He was not happy because the salary was not paid, and he joined the Kazakh bands of Kazakhs led by Ataman Kazitsyn, and then he was patrolling the region near Debaltseva. Then, understanding that he will not be paid well, he decided to go to the peaceful part of Ukraine where he was detained. And this is the Russian who went to Ukraine to fight for the dirty money. I went there because I needed money. Like in internet, I read the advertisement, and they were saying that it would be $100 a day. In Rostov, we were said 2,000 rubles per day, but they say we will not sign an agreement. Go there, and with the field commanders, you will sign the agreement. But over there, well, they take into account what is your specialty. Some were fighting in the special purpose troops, and that is will be paid for. Ukrainian law enforcement is confiscating the hidden ammunition on the territory of Mironivsky settlement of the Baltsevsk city council. The storage with artillery shells in the amount of 1,000 pieces was discovered. At the checkpoint in Dmitrivka of Novoidarsky district of Lugansk region, the militias stopped the car when inspected. The law enforcers detected about 1,000 units of the ammunition.
Волонтерам під час огляду автомобіля було виявлено та вилучено 4 магазини до автомату АК-74, 8 пачок з набоями калібром 5,45 мм, 1 граната F1, 2 гранати РГД-5, 3 пачки тротилу, 1 глушник до автомату АК-74, 5 гранат для підствольного гранатомета. У контрольному пункті в'їзду-виїзду Бугас під час перевірки рейсового автобусу Донецьк-Бердянськ наші прикордонники затримали громадянина України, що мав при собі підроблену перепустку. З слів затриманого, цей документ він купив через мережу інтернет за 550 гривень. Українська влада оперативно відновлює нормальні життєві умови на Донбасі. Силами аварійних бригад вдалося у найкоротший термін усунути неполадки, що вчора призвели до автоматичного відключення одного з 2 працюючих енергоблоків Луганської ТЕС. Вже після 20-ї години енергопостачання відновили. Сьогодні о 4 ранку роботу зупиненого енергоблоку було відновлено. І триває планова ротація в лавах сил антитерористичної операції. Батальйон спецпризначення Чернігів вирушив на Донбас. На Луганщині бійці батальйону боронитимуть українські рубежі, захищаючи позиції від диверсійно-розвідувальних груп ворога. Також чернігівці допомагають місцевим мешканцям, що постраждали від дій бойовиків. І проводжати на схід українських патріотів прийшли брати по зброї, друзі, рідні. Зведений загін працівників міліції Львівщини повернувся додому на відпочинок. Сьогодні повернулося 63 бійця. На сході України хлопці охороняли громадський порядок, об'єкти життєзабезпечення населених пунктів, а також виконували завдання командування антитерористичної операції. Виконували з честю, гідно і, головне, всі повернулися живими та здоровими, розповів керівник обласної міліції полковник Дмитро Загарія, який в лютому особисто брав участь у бойових діях під Дебальцевим. І триває підготовка нового покоління українських офіцерів. Впродовж лютого майже 150 курсантів 3 та 4 курсів Академії сухопутних військ імені Петра Сагайдачного пройшли військове стажування. У навчаннях взяли участь майбутні командири механізованих і танкових підрозділів, курсанти, артилеристи та ракетники, військові інженери та фахівці по роботі з особовим складом. Для курсантів одним з головних завдань стала безпосередня участь у фаховій підготовці військовослужбовців, які були призвані під час першого етапу 4-ї хвилі мобілізації. А зараз традиційна історія про українських воїнів, які захищають батьківщину. 9 та 10 березня український народ відзначав Шевченківські дні. Учора свої іменини святкували Тараси по всьому світові. Один з них – боєць механізованої бригади, яка зараз захищає селище Кримське. У цивільному житті це вчитель фізики та львівський підприємець. Тарас розповідає, що на фронті отримав позивний «Бульба» за харизматичну зовнішність та ім'я. Наші військові навіть зовнішньо мало відрізняються від гоголівського персонажа, так само, як і відомий запорізький козак. Український військовослужбовець боронить рідну землю від ворожої навали. І так само він не сприймає ані зрадництва, ані підступності. Як відомо, проросійські бойовики досі обстрілюють селище Кримське з стрілецької зброї, нехтуючи своїми зобов'язаннями дотримуватися мирних угод. Наш герой та його бойові побратими гідно захищають свої позиції і не віддадуть ані сантиметра землі окупанту. Україна докладає усіх зусиль, щоб конфлікт на Сході був закінчений, а наш герой зможе зустріти свій наступний день ангела у колі своїх друзів та сім'ї. На цьому поки що все. Будь ласка, ваші питання, якщо є.
Дуже дякую. Зараз ще виступ.
Thank you. And now, Yulia, volunteer, Yulia Watcher, and then the questions and answers.
Вітаю, шановні.
Welcome. I'm glad to have been given the floor. I have an important information about wounded people. I'm the volunteer. I'm the volunteer from Maidan. From the 1st of December, I was at Maidan. And from the first days of military actions, I am actively working as a volunteer, being at the front line and seeing the situations, different situations with our wounded people. I understand that the destiny of wounded is in the hands of the wounded. It was so in the first days of the war, and now it hasn't changed. I can tell that out of the deaths that we suffer, most of them are not justified. These are not those wounds which, because of which the servicemen were dying. They were dying mostly because the medical assistance was not rendered on time. This is the same situation with wounded people who survived. But there's another danger. Out of all the wounded people who have the amputated limbs, in most cases the limbs were amputated because the medical assistance was not rendered on time. And the reason why that is the case is that there's no military medical doctrine. I had a chance to meet with President Poroshenko in Petrivci during the award ceremony of the heroes of the National Guards, and I discussed this issue with him. And I said that I request about one thing, because our medicians are working on developing this medical military doctrine. so that there's a blessing, so that after the document is submitted, it will be passed quickly. But nevertheless, the doctrine is drafted, the document is there. It's now at the presidential administration. It has been approved by the Israeli experts. That's the country which understands mostly in military medicine. We received approval that this doctrine was approved, and now it would be good to pass this doctrine, but unfortunately we do not know why the doctrine is still not approved, not passed, and we will not see any re-election soon. Understanding that, my colleagues, medical colleagues and managers came to the conclusion that something is to be done, so that today we can improve rendering assistance to wounded. For that, the NGO association Народна Перемога was set up, and Molfar project was set up. This project provides for the accompanying of the serviceman after he calls to the hotline that he's wounded till he returns back to his unit. For that, a lot of work has been done. There's a call center which is serviced by medical people, and calling by phone, the serviceman can receive consultations of what to do in this or that case, or maybe the person is wounded. Is it what's the circumstances, where the person is located, how to transport this person from there, and how to transport this person to field medical hospital. The project is there. Molfar has started receiving first phone calls, but we can work only with volunteer battalions. The right sector known so in Dudaev's battalions, because the armed forces of Ukraine, the servicemen of the armed forces of Ukraine, they are covered by the law on protecting personal information, and because of that, these servicemen cannot use. They can call this phone number, but officially, armed forces of Ukraine cannot use these services. Our objective is this project Molfar will be upgraded. In 3 months, we will organize it, and then we will submit it to the Ministry of Public Health and the Ministry of Defense as a product, so that it's implemented into the system of public health or into the system of the Ministry of Defense. Many servicemen who were wounded, they cannot go back to their units because the medical assistance was not rendered timely. There were cases when, for example, when in Artemivsk there were 172 wounded servicemen, and in Izium the hospital was empty. There's no coordination, there's no logistics there. And for that, we initiated this Molfar project. We hope that it will work and it will save many lives of people. Thank you.
Now, answers and questions, and don't forget to introduce yourself. Ukraine News, and the question to Mr. Lysenko, to Colonel Lysenko. Do you confirm the information that we got about 2 weeks ago that a military reporter of a breeze, Dmitro Laputkin, that he was killed? Those video. I'm not ready to answer your question. What's the situation with withdrawal of heavy weapons? As I understand that Ukraine complies with the Minsk agreements. Have you finished that? What is left to withdraw? And what about militants? Militants, they move the heavy weapons to certain places. And for OSCE and for Russian journalists, they had a show withdrawal, and they just redislocated it to a different area. Though our intelligence observed withdrawal of heavy weapons, but not to that distance which is stipulated by Minsk agreements, but just a little deeper for them to be not seen visually. As to Ukrainian armed forces and battalions with that heavy weapons, we had 4 stages of withdrawal, and under the observation of supervision of OSCE, and there were Ukrainian and foreign journalists, so everything was transparent and according to all the rules, and everybody had a chance to see where we withdraw and where to we withdraw our equipment and where it is, and there were no obstacles on this. And OSCE representatives, when they're not able to see where militants withdraw their heavy weapons, and that's what they tell in their report. Militants continue receiving equipment and ammunition until now. That's a fact. We will not withdraw all weapons because we don't have the confirmation that our enemy did it. So, we need to be ready to defend. So, we comply with that requirement. It would be a crime if we don't support. We have no support to our armed forces in the area. There was soldiers from 128 brigade. They captured the tank of the enemy, and have they received a remuneration for that? I cannot tell you exactly, but I know that there is a process, and those who destroy enemy's equipment, they will be definitely awarded. If they captured that tank, so it means they have it. Channel 5, I would like to hear from you more information about Shirokina. What's the situation there? Because yesterday we received data that from 10 to 17 there were heavy battles, and they used even tanks. Could you inform? I cannot give you more about Shirokina. The day before yesterday there was a battle, and our soldiers destroyed their tank, and they destroyed two storage facilities with ammunition, which they had almost on the front line. And they killed several militants, and we didn't have losses. They didn't use ground system. There was infantry supported by tanks, and also they used mortars and grenade launchers. Other questions? Thank you very much. Thank you. Our working day is over. Tomorrow will begin at 9 o'clock in the morning. Thank you.